already December 6, 2022. Christmas will soon be here and a brand new year looms on the horizon. I'm really happy to welcome everyone to the third Community Corner program of 2022. Logistical problems have plagued Dighton Cable Channel 9 this year, but it's good to report that things are improving. Work is continuing on a studio in Town Hall, and we are very hopeful that we may be able to offer an expanded listing of programs for 2023 with more variety and entertainment in our own Dighton settings. Tonight, we're back in Dighton's Old Town Hall, all set up with our newest cable equipment. A few very, very dedicated and hardworking individuals operate Dighton's Channel 9, and they cover events and keep us up to date on what is happening in town and town government through the medium of local cable. Sincere thanks to these few folks for their efforts on behalf of our town and our people. Traditionally, Community Corner always opens with a pledge of allegiance to this great nation of ours. Today, as we share again in this solemn pledge, let us commit ourselves to working together with our friends and neighbors to keep this great nation the America it was intended to be. One nation, one people, Americans all. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are very, very fortunate tonight to have the people who protect us sitting here with me. Fire Chief Christopher McGee and Police Chief Sean Cronin. They're both lifelong Dighton residents, so their work for us is not only for us, it's for their own hometown. And that doesn't happen very often anymore. So this is a real special situation in Dighton. Before we begin, just so that we don't forget, in case I happen not to mention it later, there's going to be a Stuff the Cruiser event this Saturday from 9 to 1 at the police station. Somebody want to tell me a little bit about that? Both sides.
Yeah, so this, I believe, is the 5th year, Chief?
I think it's the 7th.
Okay.
I believe it's the 7th year.
The 7th year we've gotten together and did a joint venture for a collection of clothing and toys for people that need help during the holiday season. And together with the fire department, we've been able to donate quite a bit of stuff over the last 7 years. So we're going to continue that this year, and we're doing a rolling drop-off this year. It's a little bit different. Typically, we would have an event here in the parking lot, but we're doing a rolling drop-off at Station 1 and at PD headquarters, where you can drop off toys and clothes. And then Saturday, like you said, is going to be the culmination day. Okie will be there. There's a picture opportunity if anybody wants to get pictures with the dog.
Oh, that's special.
And yeah, we'll have some refreshments, and anybody that wants to drop off, we'd appreciate it.
Now, you're looking for what kind of newly wrapped or unwrapped gifts and clothing? What specifically are you looking for?
New unwrapped toys and clothes.
Okay, fine. Because sometimes if we know that they need to be new and not wrapped, so that you know what you've got.
That's just it. It makes it easier to divvy it out.
Sure, of course. Now, when we chatted at the police station a week ago, we were talking about 911 and the fact that people don't always understand how that should be used. I'd like you guys to just touch on that a little bit, because that's really, really important.
Sure, I think on the fire side of things, from a medical standpoint, the importance of 911 is the emergency medical dispatching. Our dispatchers are all trained in how to talk somebody through an emergency over the phone. So that's a critical first step in an emergency. So by calling the business line, we're just going to forward you to police dispatch or the dispatcher on duty. So I think it's really important that the people call 911 and not the business lines at each station.
How about the police feel the same situation?
We do, yeah. And to kind of go off of what Chief was saying, our dispatchers have a pretty intricate setup in front of them. Not only are they on the phones, but they're on multiple screens at the same time when that call comes in. And just recently, the Commonwealth enacted a text system. So you can actually text 911 now, and it'll pinpoint on your location. Prior, there was the cell option plus your landline option. The cell option would go to state police first, and then kick over based on where you were. They would reroute it to where the call was coming from. That doesn't happen anymore. It's more efficient, it's more streamlined. So when somebody calls, this system will actually pinpoint exactly where they are so that we can get services to them quicker.
One of the wonderful benefits of cell phones,
Oh, yeah.
really
One
and
of them.
truly.
One of them.
Well, there are negatives too, I know, like old people like me who don't use them so well. I have my children tell me all the time. Oh, well, I have a quick funny story. I used a cell phone 15, 18, 20 years ago, I guess, when I was in tobacco control, and I was traveling around the state. And so everybody felt I needed to have one with me. Well, the only time I ever used it was crossing the Bursley Bridge when something was wrong down there. And my granddaughter was with me, and she's the one who used the phone. But then that one became obsolete, and they didn't use that technology anymore. So my son very gently said to me, "Mom, you need a cell phone." And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Oh, yes, you do." So he brought me one, gave me instructions on how to run it, and about a month later, he came to the house and he said, "Mom, do me a favor, turn on the phone. I've been trying to ever since I gave it to you."
It helps if it's on.
So I do turn it on. In fact, I probably should have turned mine off tonight. Anyway, okay, 911, we've covered that in the fact that the business line is the one to use unless you really have an emergency. I hope we can stress that enough, because I know there's an awful lot going on in that communication center there at the police station. Senior safety issues. One of the things that I run into with a couple of my friends recently is the business of medicine disposal. Do you still have in either the fire station or the police station some type of a receptacle for?
We do. We have 2 man days throughout the year that we actually have 2 officers in the station to collect them. But the receptacle is in our dispatch lobby 24/7. So
Okay.
you can drop it off whatever you need to.
All right, that's a good, because I've had a couple of friends who asked me, "I've got all this medicine, what am I gonna do with it?"
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what your men and women face every day. I don't think anybody really has any clue as to what's out there. I mean, I know you can't be specific, but in general, the kinds of things that people should avoid doing so that they're not creating unnecessary trouble.
Even though we're in Dighton, we're in a great community. We're not immune to everything that goes on. It's a smaller scale, but the same things happen here that are happening elsewhere. And we face the same challenges that, and I'll speak in relation to a bigger police department. It's the same challenges. It's the same incidents that we're responding to. Again, smaller scale, lesser frequency, but it's the same stuff.
You're dealing with people,
Sure.
regardless, and people are varied.
Yeah, and what we're seeing, I hate to bring up COVID because it's so washed out now, but it's true that there's so much mental health illness or mental illness going on that it's affecting people's day-to-day lives. And in doing so, it's affecting other people's day-to-day lives. So we see that daily, whether it's from medical runs or medical responses to a whole gamut of call responses that we go on because of mental illness. And it's sad. It really is.
It's sad and it's frightening when you see what happens. Fortunately, we haven't had incidents of shootings and things in Dighton up to now, please Lord, don't. But I just listened to the news and they were talking about Portland, Maine, and their whole atmosphere. I spent a lot of time up there as a kid, and that whole atmosphere in that city has changed. I mean, 4 shootings in the course of a week, and a young lady who lives in an apartment in that area, and she said, now I'm very wary of going out at night.
Sure.
And so forth, and so I think a lot of it has to do with the COVID and the fact that we were kind of cooped up and isolated, and even when you were out in public, you were isolated because you're covered with a mask, and that causes a lot of stress. And it also causes a lot of stress on the kids, don't you think?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. I think, you know, even from a EMS standpoint, we're seeing a lot more of our transports now, as Chief Cronin said, are behavioral or kind of mental health issues more than medical emergencies, so to speak. So even the emergency rooms, if you go in the emergency rooms, they're inundated with behavioral issues, and you're struggling to find beds for people that are experiencing true medical emergencies. And I hate to say true medical emergencies, but the beds are full, and it's not because they're not trying to help people. It's that there's too many people that need help.
Need help, yeah. I don't think we've got an instant solution, but I do think that if we kind of kept an eye on our neighbors and checked in on them once in a while to see whether they were doing okay and so forth, you know.
I think it doesn't help too that, you know, in our lifetime, I've never seen costs the way they are.
Oh, no,
Just
oh my goodness.
with fuel and food and just everything. So here we are on the holidays talking about mental health, and now you integrate cost of living.
Absolutely.
There's some real hardship going on out there.
Well, there really is, and I think, I don't know about everybody, but my age bracket, I'm 82, and I live alone. My husband passed away, and I am not turning up my heat until the first of the year. I mean, I might bounce it up. Actually, I've got somebody coming this evening, so I put it up to 60, but it's going back down. Because when I'm there, I bundle up. Problem is I bundle up too much, and then I walk out like I did tonight and say, wow, I don't need all these clothes. A warm jacket and all that.
Sure. Put a sweatshirt on.
Yeah, well, I wear a sweatshirt, sometimes two, most of the time. I haven't come to long underwear yet, but that's next. Oh, my.
Whatever it takes, right?
Well, whatever it takes is right, exactly. And then my two great-grandchildren walk in, and they're both hockey players, and they've got shorts on and light T-shirts and so forth, and I say, okay, Graham's outgrown that. Well, now we're talking fire department for a minute. You've got the sheet there. I'm curious to know how many people you have on your department, how do you cover your shifts, how many people on a shift? Are all your firemen paramedics? And I notice you have two ladies on the department now. And so that's the outline. Just tell us a story.
So the fire department, for people who don't know, we operate two stations. One's at 300 Main Street, one's at 132 Chase Street in North Dighton. We have 40 personnel on the roster right now. 9 of those personnel are career or full-time personnel. We have 1 administrative assistant, and the rest of them are all call personnel that volunteer their time to come back, and then they're paid for their time that they're on the response. The shifts are, we have currently have 3 groups of 3, which is the 9 full-time personnel. All 9 of those full-time personnel are paramedic certified. They cover basically Sunday through Friday or Saturday morning. The Saturday shift is open to call EMTs and paramedics, firefighters, to cover that. But a lot of times, staffing is on a Saturday, as you can imagine, to get people on their days off. It can be a little bit of a struggle, so we end up having a lot of times full-time personnel covering those shifts. That's only at Station 1, where our 2 ambulances are. Station 2 is a completely unmanned station, unless we have call personnel there on what we call a 6-hour shift, where they can pick a 6-hour block and work that 6 hours at the station. And that's kind of sporadic in here and there.
I think that's an important point, the fact that that North Dighton Station 2, is not fully manned.
Correct.
We've got a lot of new folks in town, and this is information that they may not be aware of. Just what I consider an important point of interest. Anyway, back to your, I know you have two women on your
So
full-time.
we have 2 female hires that we just made. Sarah Gilmet started, oh boy, I'm gonna be lying here. It's gotta be,
Recently,
yeah, probably 9 months. And then Sarah Desmond, I just hired about a month and a half or 2 months ago. Both Sarahs came from the call department. They work for us as per diem paramedics, and were a good fit and have adjusted well. Sarah Gilmet had done the academy with us as a call person, so she came on trained. Sarah Desmond's waiting for a spot in a career recruit program, hopefully in Fall River, along with the next hire that will hopefully happen January 1. So those 2 new positions will both go to a career recruit program, hopefully that Fall River will be hosting. We just made 2 new promotions because we had two recent retirements, well, a bunch of recent retirements, but Captain Reddy retired. Lieutenant White and Lieutenant Medeiros both retired, so we've been filling vacancies for quite a while now.
trying to build back up to where you were. Yeah.
Correct. We've become a very young department in the fact of experience, so that's a transition, and that's, again, as Chief Cronin alluded to earlier, that's not something that's just the town of Dighton. It's, as I go to chiefs meetings, it's something that's always talked about, that we're all starting with very young departments. We've lost hundreds of years of service and experience over the last few years, and that's gonna hurt, trying to get people back to, we don't have the fires we used to have, and that's a good thing, but that's also a bad thing, because when they do happen, you know, it just means we need to train more to be able to get that experience.
Speaking of training, the firemen's musters, I know they used to have them annually somewhere around. Berkeley was one of the places.
Berkeley still has their Father's Day muster. Dighton does go compete. If you like to see an entertaining show, it's
It's fun.
but Berkeley's pretty much the only one around now that hosts one.
Really?
Yeah, so it's kind of a dying breed, if you will.
Yeah, that's like the call firefighters who had basically no training. I've got pictures of the firefighters when the Dighton Rock Park Resort burned down, and they've got their dress clothes on and their hats, and the women are there in their dresses. And, yeah, it's changed.
Times have changed,
Of course,
yeah.
that was 1921, so yeah, that's a day or two ago. I mentioned paramedics' first aid tips. Is there anything there that you think that folks should know right now, or we're just relying on the paramedics? If they have to wait a little bit for someone to get there, emergency things that they can do?
Basic first aid, again, call 911, because the resources are there with 911.
Wonderful.
They can walk you through. If you have to do something, they'll definitely walk you through on what you have to do. Basic first aid kit is basically what we would suggest to people.
Okay. And in a basic first aid kit? The first,
Yeah, Band-Aids and things along those lines, Band-Aids,
make sure.
burn creams,
Burn cream. Yeah.
we don't suggest burn creams, but I know they're in all the first aid kits. So we, sorry, my page is
No,
going
that's
up.
right.
See, duty calls. So it's, you know, just Band-Aids, Band-Aids, just basic stuff. Yeah.
Some type of basic protection but once again, I think it's good that I brought it up, because now we have mentioned the fact that the 911 response has that information.
On the other side of it is, like the chief said, the communications operators, they can walk anybody through the incident. They're trained on that. But they also have the ability to dispatch a cruiser. So as soon as they can do that, the better chances you have of a better outcome.
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely, absolutely, gosh. And elderly, and the only reason I bring it up right now is because my sister lives in a senior housing facility, not in Dighton. And, because they're independent people, you know, they have the right to privacy and so on. But one of the elderly gentlemen who lives alone fell getting out of his bathroom and laid on the floor for 5 days hauling for help.
Yeah.
Oh,
And, you know, that's scary. That really is scary. So please, if you're as old as I am, be careful of yourself.
Yeah, and really, that's the big thing with the elderly population is, you know, trips and falls and that type of thing.
Absolutely. Well, okay, Christmas is here. Well, just about, right down the road. I have the kids coming in with their eyes this big. Fire safety, natural trees and lights and all that.
Yeah, so Christmas, you know, we suggest that everybody take a look at your lights and the cords, and take a look at your extension cords, and if there's any question on your cords, please dispose of them and replace them. Replace, you know, all your old style lights, if you still have the old screw-in bulbs and those types of things. Keep your natural trees 3 feet away from any kind of heat source, and you want to make sure you're watering your tree every day.
Good enough. I had to get that in there.
Sure.
Now, other fire safety, with temperatures what they are, and people keeping their homes very cool, I know there are folks out there looking for other ways to heat their houses.
Yeah, so in the fire service, we're concerned about some type of alternative heat sources. So there's already been fires with space heaters, and space heaters being too close to things they shouldn't be. We have concern about people using wood stoves and fireplaces that haven't been used in years, and the chimneys haven't been inspected or cleaned. So please, if you're thinking about using your wood stove and your fireplaces, all your chimneys should be inspected and cleaned. And then, you know, pellet stoves and all that type of thing, obviously should be installed properly by a trained professional.
Absolutely. I go back to the days when we had kerosene heaters about this big around and about that high that we used at the farm, and the chimney, the fireplace with the chimney, you know, that heated two sides. We had double one. Some of the older homes have 4, I guess, and 1 4. But there's a potential danger, and just handling the lighting material and so forth. You know, you have to be cautious about how you do that and what you use. And some people, and I know I've heard it already twice this week, they're turning on their ovens and leaving the oven doors open.
Yeah, yeah.
And these are scary things, and you know, people need to realize that there's danger there.
Yeah, and you know, you want to make sure that all your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors are operating and functional, your batteries have been changed. We put out a thing every year at clock change time to replace your batteries and your detectors. We suggest doing that even if you say, I just replaced them last time we turned the clocks forward. We tell people to change them no matter what. That way you know that they're good. And, you know, there's points where you go through and you lose power and you don't realize that your detectors are now running off of batteries for a day or 2, depending on, you know, I know even in my house, so I lost power for 4 or 5 days. I think it was last year or the year before, and my batteries all died in my detectors, so I had to go around and replace them all. So there is circumstances where you'll use the batteries and you don't even realize it because they just continue to
They're doing
operate.
what they're supposed to do.
Correct.
That's that point. You mentioned losing power, and actually I heard a news report within the week about someone who had, whether it was a crock pot or a air fryer or one of these newer appliances, and they left it plugged in. Wasn't on. They left it plugged in. There was a power surge after the power had been off for a couple of days, probably down south. They've been having some problems down there. And when the power surge came, it set that appliance on fire, even though it wasn't turned on. It was plugged in. And luckily, the woman was at home, and she found it. They lost the kitchen. They had to redo their kitchen, but they didn't lose the house, and no one was hurt. But I
Scary.
didn't realize that a power surge would do that to something that was simply, it wasn't on, it was just plugged in. So,
You can deliver too much power to something, anything can happen.
well, there you go. And automobile fuel safety, I just mentioned it, I don't know whether there's anything there that you want to touch on, or how do you handle it, or?
You know, obviously, fuel should be stored in a safe place, you know, outside of the home, away from the home, so, you know, don't be storing your fuel in an attached garage or
Or your basement.
in your basement or something along those lines, right?
For sure. Batteries in general. Now, you know, batteries go bad, and you're not supposed to just get rid of them. What is the best advice you can give people about disposing of batteries that not gonna create a,
So we change batteries a lot at the fire station, in AEDs, in our monitors, carbon monoxide detectors that we use to go check people's houses. The thing that we do with them is we recycle them at Interstate Battery. So pretty much anybody that sells batteries, you can turn your batteries in to be recycled.
so that would be a good suggestion to everybody out there and it's Christmas, you know, and there are probably thousands more batteries being sold right now than there are most of the year. Why not put them into some kind of a secure container until you have enough to make it worth your while?
Sure.
And make a trip to Swansea.
Yeah.
Or wherever, but Interstate Battery, I think, is in Swansea, if I'm, yeah.
It is. yeah.
And if they recycle them, you know, is there a charge for that? Do they accept them?
Only if you're returning a battery that they don't sell.
Oh, I see, okay.
Oh, okay.
So, rather than toss them into the trash, which I know a lot of people do, because, you know, what do you do with them? So if we can give them a good suggestion, I think that's, maybe prevent some problems. And I make a comment about the fire station, because we have a beautiful new police station, and I know the fire department has been, looking to make a change over the years, and all I'm saying is that I do believe that the town is looking into possibly upgrading the firefighting facilities overall. It's a future goal, and nothing is firm, nothing's carved in stone, nothing's even really been studied as yet, but that is a possibility, because we do have a,
Correct. The feasibility study was approved at the recent special town meeting, and that whole process is in the works to go out to bid for the company that will do the study. So currently, the Board of Selectmen is working on appointing a what we'll call a fire station building committee. So I believe they're looking for some at-large residents that are willing to volunteer their time to be on the committee.
well, that's a good thing, and I just kind of like to let people know when we're thinking forward, even if we haven't gotten there yet. Takes time. Takes a
Everything
lot of
does,
time.
yep.
Well, just look at the police station, and we're gonna be talking with John in a minute. Dighton, for many years, had a fire department and a police department that were paid by Mount Hope Finishing Company. They were not town officers, or town, paid by the town, not. And, at the time of the strike in '51, all of a sudden, the town needed to have a police department. So they hired a single full-time officer, and the station was in his house. And he bought the cruiser, and he made the connection with the state police, and it was an interesting time. And then when he was no longer chief, they were looking for a place to put it because, of course, couldn't use his house anymore. And it was in the Girl Scout house, and it got, well, I shouldn't say Girl Scout house, because new people are gonna say, what is she talking about? Segregated schoolhouse across from the town hall, right just about across the street from where we are. That used to be called the Girl Scout house because the Girl Scouts always had their meetings there. But that is actually the last one-room school out of 14 that the town still owns. And that was served as a police station for a while. And it bounced from pillar to post and wound up under the hill there on County Street, and finally has a beautiful new facility, benefit to all of us, right there at the top of the hill where Somerset Avenue and County Street become one. So let's talk about the new station and how it's working for our needs.
Sure. Yeah, we are incredibly grateful for the townspeople voting it. It's made a complete 180 of a difference between motivation and culture, and just the sense of walking into a professional environment. Huge difference. And it has something to be said about when people come in to do their business, being in that environment. You know, it's not just for us. It's for everybody that gets a service from the police department. So we're very, very fortunate, and we love it.
Well, the town has been blessed with an excellent facility. There's no question about that at all. I was familiar with a couple of the older ones, so yeah, stories, anyway.
There were some challenges there.
Yeah, there were some challenges, and you still have challenges, but at least you have a good focal point from which to work, and it's a great atmosphere for your officers and so forth. And this is important. It has a lot to do with morale, and it has a lot to do with the overall effect of the town of Dighton on people who have to go there who are not from here.
Sure.
And so it's a benefit. Personnel, how many police officers do we have? Do we have any policewomen? Do we have a specific court officer still? General questions.
Yeah. So there's 14 full-time officers, including myself. In there, we do have a full-time detective. We have 2 full-time school resource officers. And we have a full-time community outreach officer. So that officer handles not only court, but elder affairs, affairs with children. And that officer actually is an additional SRO for fill-ins and vacations. So we actually have 3 trained SRO officers, school resource officers. Other than that, we do have 4 reserve officers. We have 4 full-time dispatchers, 3 part-time dispatchers, about to be a 4th hopefully next week, 1 administrative assistant, the ACO, and harbor master, and the 2 assistants that are under the purview of the police department. So there's a wide gamut and range of responsibilities that fall under there. And we have 2 females on full-time. Julia Horton is one of our newest hires. She's currently assigned to the midnight shift. And Alyssa Bennett is one of our school resource officers. Her assignment is at Dighton Rehoboth. So we're very fortunate. They both bring a different perspective to things. It's really, I love walking back into the duty room when they're engaging with other officers, because you definitely see not only experience or different views of experience, but different perceptions from the males and the females. And there's some great conversations, and there's some really good teamwork going on down there. We're in a good spot. We really are. I don't want to jinx anything, but it's a great culture.
No jinxes here tonight.
It's a great culture, yeah, it really is.
Oh, my. Okay, we've talked about 911 already, so we can skip that at this point. Okie.
Yeah, Okie,
I was hoping he might be here tonight, but he isn't.
no, unfortunately not. He just finished his training. So I forget the actual name of the training, but there's a therapy dog, comfort dog training that he has to go through to get his certification.
Yeah, in case anybody wonders what I'm talking about when I say Okie, we do have a comfort dog at this point. I'll give it back to you, but
We do, yeah, so thank you. About over a year ago, we started thinking about the idea of bringing in a comfort dog to assist our school resource officer. We found, just through research of many other departments across the country that do it, the dog offers a totally different dynamic to help not only kids, teachers, staff, other officers. So we really lucked out with this dog. In fact, talking to the instructors at this training facility in Middleborough, they do quite a few comfort therapy dogs in New England. And I was pretty impressed to hear them say that Okie was top 5 they've ever had.
really,
So his demeanor, and that's a testament to Officer Steve Hathaway and how he's been training with Okie. But top 5 out of the hundreds of dogs that they've done,
that's
that's
wonderful.
pretty cool.
You're
so-
darn right, it's cool.
Yeah, he's,
Dighton can be proud. We need a plaque with his name on it.
yeah,
that-
he's doing pretty well. So
Top
far, so
5.
good.
Yeah, animals put a different spin on tough situations many, many times.
Yeah,
I know of a school in Fall River, it's a charter school, where one of the teachers brings a rabbit or a couple of rabbits, and they're part of they're there 2, 3, 4 days a week. And when a child is having a bad time, or, something emotional going on, or something, that's the opportunity to spend 5 minutes with
Sure.
the rabbit. And it has made a difference to some of those kids, no question about it. They keep me updated, and thank goodness. I think it's a great thing, really and truly.
it's been amazing to see how impactful his presence has been to a lot of people.
Oh,
So I'm glad we have the program.
adults as well, there's nothing, when things are really, really tough, an animal doesn't want anything, they just want to be there, and it helps, it really does. We've got a lot of new people in town. Any overall suggestions that you people would offer to them? Getting acquainted with the fire department, the police department, so that they know how to interact. Because I see posts on Facebook, and people are confused sometimes as to what to do. And so they post something on Facebook and look for answers. Just general information. What would you give to a new resident as a?
So I think it's an interesting question, because I definitely over the last 5 to 7 years, there's been a shift in how people interact and how people find out information.
Yes.
So it used to be phone calls. They used to call the station. They used to come to the station, for police related or communications related, and I'm sure fire related. But now that online forum is kind of the go-to, because it's easy and everybody's busy. And I feel like, even myself, like, you want to take a breath and slow down and relax, but there's always something going on. So, to answer your question, Mrs. Santos, I think maybe, just take a breath, just relax, take a breath, and maybe talk to a neighbor, like you said. I'm not saying that social interaction is out the window, because it's not, but I'd like to see more of it.
It's very much changed from what it used to be.
Sure.
There's no question about that.
Yeah,
And you're right, everybody is so busy. And back in my day, we had blue laws. We didn't, nothing, everything shut down on Sundays. My husband had a trucking business, and he had done a repair on his truck, and he had to make sure that everything was working right. And he made the terrible mistake on a Sunday of driving to the end of the road and turning around to go back home, and he was stopped by a Dighton police officer. This is many years ago. And he said, well, I won't write you up, but put it back in the yard. Well, it was because it was a maintenance situation. But couldn't run a truck on a Sunday.
well,
And, of course, stores weren't open, and you went to church in the morning if you were a church-going person, and the rest of the day was family time. And it's very, very different. My great-grandchildren are into hockey, and they're off at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning, and they're off to the western part of the state, or up to Canada, or wherever the heck they're playing. Well, not Canada, Canadian border, though, Maine. And their whole day is occupied with sports, and,
Sure.
and other people have other things that they're doing. They go fishing, or they play golf, or whatever.
Sure.
And so,
I think the day of instant gratification is upon us, and that's what the internet brings. And I think that police and fire both try to put as much information out there as we can on our websites and whatever we can. So, but I will say that, don't be afraid to pick up the phone, call our business line, 508-669-6611. My personnel love to talk to people. So we're willing to talk to you and walk you through whatever you might be looking for. And if we can't get the answer, we'll try to assist you and point you in the right direction to get the answer.
now, the town has a website. Do you have website addresses that we could give to folks right now, that people?
Yes, so the fire department is www.dightonfire.com.
Okay,
And ours is DightonPolice.com. Pretty easy.
pretty simple.
Yep.
But just www.dightonpolice.com or www.dightonfire.com
Correct.
will bring you right directly to the sites for these two departments. And because you can't always trust what you're trying to find on Facebook, and a lot of people go there first.
Sure.
So we do have official internet access to our departments and the information that's there.
Right.
And I think that's another important thing for people, new people especially, to know. And old folks like me who don't do so well with all the electronic stuff. Ask my son, he'll tell you. Okay, we got another thing that I'm seeing a lot of news about everywhere. This business of package theft, now that we have packages being left on the doorsteps of empty homes. Suggestions from both sides,
Yeah, we see a lot of it. One of the first things that our officers will tell you if you're a victim of it is, if you don't already, get yourself some home surveillance, some home security cameras, whether it's Ring, Blink, there's so many out there, Arlo. But that's your first line, especially, everything is just quick, and there's so many deliveries. You see
my
so many
goodness,
trucks
yes.
out there on the roads.
yes.
And obviously with the holidays, the size of the packages that are just being left on these doors. I rode around town today. Part of our holiday initiative is we're out in marked cars and unmarked cars doing patrols, making sure that if we can thwart some sort of a robbery, we will.
That's a
And-
very good thing for people to know and hear and share, in case anybody has an idea of picking up a package. The car behind you or in front of you may be a police officer.
Could be, absolutely.
And in Dighton, that's a really good initiative. I think that's a great one. I really do.
But, the first defense is being able to see it with your own eyes. And it's all real time, with Blink, Ring, Arlo, whatever, Nest. You can contact us. So if you're seeing something on your phone, when you get that notification, you call us. We're talking a pretty significant, quick turnaround that we can get services rolling that way, as opposed to not having something and you come home hours later from work. And now, but there are times too where packages aren't stolen. It's a delivery glitch. I know personally myself, I've had things that say it's been delivered and it's not, and it comes the next day. So you always want to check with your carrier too. Find out who is delivering your product, and whether it's an online inquiry, a phone call to customer service, but check with them first, because even though it says it's been delivered, it doesn't always mean it has been.
Well, and sometimes they get the wrong house.
Mhm.
Sometimes, yeah, I was
That-
gonna say that too.
We've seen a lot of that too.
Well, and I would think in areas, top of my head, Dighton Woods, where the houses are similar,
Mhm.
and the numbers, you don't necessarily, you know the number, but you might get the wrong driveway, because they're pretty close down there.
Sure.
And so, I do think it's a good point to touch on anyway.
You can ask your neighbors too. I mean, if
Oh,
you have neighbors that are home during the day, you can ask them to take a look. You know,
Sure.
if you have a good relationship, get out, talk to them. Another thing we suggest is, if possible, if your employer will allow you to have things delivered to your work,
Mhm.
ask them if they're okay with that. That way you get it at work, put it in your car, you go home.
Absolutely, and because there's so much, my goodness, you can't go 5 miles without seeing 2 or 3 delivery trucks
Oh,
these
yeah.
days. And now they're talking about drones, so that ought to be interesting.
And, talking about the delivery, I know with Amazon particularly, they have drivers out there 3, 4 in the morning.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily subscribe to that kind of an approach to delivery, especially with, if I hear somebody coming up my porch steps at 4 in the morning, that's a different response,
You better believe it.
But Amazon has employed people to deliver at these off hours, so be aware of that. They're supposed to have on a high-vis reflective vest. Most of the ones that I've seen have been pretty good about it, but not all of them.
No,
And they're not all in delivery vehicles.
They're in their personal
They're in
cars.
personal vehicles.
This is frightening to me,
Yeah, it is,
that they
it's
come at
different.
that hour in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I don't order, I don't shop, basically, and I certainly don't shop online. But 99% of the people do.
Oh, yeah.
And my situation, my physical home situation is 200 feet from the street, in the woods. And I do have neighbors, but they can't observe my front and back doors. We do have some surveillance stuff there so that we're protected. But the fact of the matter is that that's a situation, and there are a lot of others who are the same way.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if a strange vehicle arrived in my yard at 2 or 3 in the morning, I would be very, very upset, because it
Sure.
didn't belong there. I did hear an interesting story on this, and once again, something silly and lighthearted, but it made me laugh. A couple had their television let go, and they bought a new one. So they put the old television in the box from the new one and set it on the front step, because they were gonna take it to dispose of it. Somebody came and stole it.
Ugh.
So they
Easy
got,
disposal.
that was broken.
Well,
I thought that was pretty neat.
yeah.
If I were a robber, that would happen to me, so. Okay, roadway safety. Boy, new drivers. I've experienced a few. And they they don't realize what intrinsic danger there is in that steering wheel and that accelerator pedal. They just don't. And of course, the show your buddy how good you are feeling, I'm gonna show you how well I drive. What kind of suggestions have you got for new drivers and parents of new drivers who live through nightmarish times until the kids get settled in?
Sure, I'm kind of going through that myself. My daughter's had her license not very long, but every day she goes out, I
You
worry. Yeah. Not necessarily because of her, but other people on the road, deer, just life, distraction. So, I think you kind of nailed it too. It's parenting.
Mhm.
And the better influence that these kids can get from their parents or a parental figure on the dangers of driving and driving defensively, the better off they'll be. And unfortunately, one of the biggest things that we see is distracted driving. A lot of people on their phones. I sat in a pickup line at one of the schools not too long ago, and I watched each and every car that went by. I just parked waiting, and the majority of them on their phone, on their phone, on their phone. And even though they're in that line to pick up, and they're going, 2 miles an hour, it's the habit. And they're just
Absolutely.
reinforcing a habit.
Absolutely.
So throughout the year, we do different campaigns. Right now, I know this is part of one of the talking points, but we do a couple of different impaired driving campaigns throughout the year. So Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over is happening now. We just started that on Monday, yesterday. So we do have officers that will be working different segments of shifts throughout the month. During the winter, we do a texting and driving campaign. We do click it a ticket. We do it's either 5 or 6 different campaigns from December through September. So we try to get out there and try to, in my philosophy, and I think the officers will tell you, is education. Even when I was on the road, I wasn't the big ticket guy. I was more the educational guy, trying to let you know why.
Why you're doing something that shouldn't happen.
Right.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, there's some people that maybe they didn't learn the first time, so you have to escalate. The last thing we want to do is give people tickets, especially now. But if you've been given a break and you've been given an education and you've been given chances, we don't have any other options.
No,
So-
no. But it's nice to know and to hear from you that is the direction that the officers take in Dighton.
100%.
Because truly, it's an educational process, and lots of times, somebody starts out driving and they're feeling pretty comfortable, but they're driving in Dighton, then all of a sudden, they're on Route 195,
Yeah,
up near Boston someplace, or,
Sure.
that's not 195, I don't think, but anyway. And it's a whole different set of reflexes and so forth that are required.
oh yeah.
And you're used to 2 lanes or maybe 3 of traffic, and now you're in 4 to 6 or something like that, and boy, and they're all traveling in excess of the 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's a scary thing, it really, really is. So I think the educational direction is really, really important, no question.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the speeds that they're traveling, and I think, obviously it's the way cars are made now. But I can speak to Chris. Chris and I have been friends since we were, 9 years old, graduated high school together, and we drove cars that we knew we were going above 45 or 50 because it let you feel it. And now
They don't do that very much anymore.
No, now I think kids are, I think they have the advantage of being in safer cars, but they're going faster than they realize. And they don't recognize the reaction time it takes to make a decision to avoid or to stop.
Well, you talk about the car and you're not aware, you don't really feel that speed.
Right.
You really, and I've got a relatively new car. Yeah, I've had it a year and a half and it's got 2,000 miles on it, so it hasn't been very far. But one of the things that troubles me about it, and it always has from day one, is that the speedometer only shows every 20 miles. So there's no 30, there's no 50, so forth. And I used to watch that, because when it began to get near the 5, then I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be. On the highway's a different ballgame.
Sure.
But now I have to remember that the next number is a 6, so be careful. This is an older driver
Sure.
talking.
Sure. No, but you're right. It's different. You have to get used to something new, and these kids having no baseline, having no experience,
Right.
they're just going into it like, oh, this is normal.
And I don't know how many of them, they probably all have driver ed at school now. Well, there was no driver ed when I was in school. And I was not allowed, although I drove a farm tractor for years, but I was not allowed to touch a car until I was 16. That was the rule. So, and I lucked out. I got a lovely old gray 1941 Hudson Commodore 4-door thing, about this tall, and held a lot of kids going to a football game.
Nice.
And my father took me for one driving lesson. And We came home, and he went into the kitchen and he said, Nina, would you do me a favor and call her a driving school? So, you know, I don't
I
think I
guess
was
it went
very-
that well, huh?
Went well, yeah.
Apparently, I made him nervous. Oh, my. Anyway, we talk about drive sober or pull over, and impaired drivers, and new drivers, and courtesy on the road. One of the things that really troubles me is when I turn on the news and I hear that there's been an officer or a firefighter hit on the road servicing the people that they're working for, doing their job. I just think that, and how do you prevent people, once again, distracted drivers, probably some of it.
It's a lot of it. It happened today. It's actually interesting you bringing this up. I had an officer this morning on a traffic stop on 138, south end, 138. And, you know, in this business, you hear different inflections and voices, and you get to know everybody and how they speak, their tone. And I heard a little something different from this officer. I knew something was wrong. He cleared that first stop, and then immediately I heard him radio in a different vehicle. So I knew something was up. It ended up, the person almost hit him when he was on the traffic stop this morning. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons. It's a lot of it is distracted. People are not paying attention. Yeah, that's one of the biggest dangers. Myself, I was hit on a detail back in 2011, 2012, 2011. I was hit on a detail.
Really?
Yeah, ended up hitting my hand, and I needed surgery, and you know that was a sun glare issue, but still, the road was blocked off, and somebody just decided they were going to go around the big sign that said road closed, and as soon as I turned around, they were right there. So I was very lucky that day. The patrolman today was very lucky, but it happens a lot.
Yes, because you see it on the news sometimes 2, 3, 4 times in a week, and it's not always in the big city areas. It's in the country, and you know, I just
Happens to the troopers a lot on the highway.
oh goodness,
That's scary, very scary.
it is scary, and they're on those highways. They're dealing with people who are driving at higher speeds,
Sure.
even though they're not supposed to be.
Sure.
You know, and it. Anyway, I wanted to touch on that because I think people really do need to pay very close attention when they're driving, and especially if there's anything, whether or not there's a barricade, there might just have been an accident, and there's a police officer trying to assist someone who is in trouble, and for heaven's sake, slow down and respect the fact that that officer needs space. Don't stay in your lane if he's in it. It's just, that's a scary thing to me, really,
Yeah.
really.
We see it a lot at motor vehicle crashes, and, you know, I think it's societally, we're all in a rush to get to our next thing, if you will. And, you know, just put yourself in the shoes of the people that are out there trying to service the community, and to be on the scene of a motor vehicle crash and you're trying to help a patient and there's cars flying behind you at 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, it's not comforting. So just slow down a little bit. I will say that, you know, in my years here with the fire department, I think people think that we like to shut down roads, and we like to, you know, there's a reason for all that. If you see a police cruiser, a fire engine, my cruiser, my deputy's cruiser across a road, there's a reason for that. We can pick better places to hang out and have discussions between us interdepartmentally. So just understand that there's a reasoning for why we shut down roads. We don't enjoy it. We're not looking to bother us, inconvenience people.
Yeah.
So just be patient with us. We try to work through things quickly. Sometimes we're at the mercy of Eversource, National Grid, getting the highway crew out, depending on what it is, a wrecker to get a car off the road. We'll stay with PD so people understand the operations. If there's a car off the road, we usually hang with police department till the wrecker gets there in case there's a ruptured fuel tank or there's oil in the road under the car that we can't see. So just be patient with us. We're not there to inconvenience you. We're there to make sure that that scene's safe after we leave for you to continue to operate on.
And actually, you don't gain anything by rushing in a situation like that. Sometimes you get into a situation of your own where you don't get where you were going on time anyway. Life moves much too fast today. It really does. Everybody's in a hurry.
Yes.
And it's kind of tough. I've got a little note here that says, "Move over and slow down," where there's a police detail, and that's what we're talking about. Dangers to officers on special details. Okay, gun safety. It's hunting season. Excuse me, but my back gets a little antsy at times. I know we've got environmental police officers. They can't be everywhere. Certainly can't cover all the wooded areas, even though we have a lot less of them right now. But I also know that the police get involved in those kind of situations. Little bit about gun safety, hunting safety, and
I'll yield to the PD.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, throughout the year, there's different hunting seasons for different game that you're going for. Right now is deer. But yeah, the biggest thing is the people that are going out there enjoying the sport, most of them take pride in that education aspect of hunting and hunting safety. So the people that we generally run into during the hunting season are the people that kind of throw that to the wind. And unfortunately, we have people that are on land that they shouldn't be. So, we're dealing with a couple of different things through the year. But, luckily, not too crazy. Most people in town are pretty good about having that permission on them to be where they are, and wearing what they're supposed to be, especially during deer season.
Oh, yes.
Very, very important. There's quite a bit of people out in the woods. You'll see trucks and cars parked on the side of the road, and that's what they're doing. So, it's not abnormal if you see somebody walking down the street in orange with some camo holding a rifle or a shotgun. It's not abnormal. It's okay. So some people get alarmed because they're not used to it, but it is okay.
Well, you mentioned the orange. That's really, really important. And now with a lot of newer people in town who are walking in the woods and so forth and so on, that's something that they need to be aware of also.
Sure.
If you're going to be walking in the woods at this season, and I've got woods, and we don't enter the woods in hunting season unless we've got orange on. We're really too close now with closer neighbors than I used to have, so that no one should be hunting out there anyway. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen. And so if you're a newer resident in Dighton and you happen to like to wander in the woods, and it's wonderful, it's a beautiful thing to do. I love to do it myself. I can't anymore, but I love to do it. This is the season when you really, really do need to take safety into account if you're going out.
Oh, yeah.
People are gathering holly and evergreens and that kind of thing, because people still use natural stuff. And speaking of the departments, there goes. So please, be careful. If you're inclined to go woods walking at hunting season, be prepared to protect yourself before you leave.
And the one thing I'd like to add to that is just be respectful of people's property.
Oh, yes.
That's come up in the last few years. I know we're running out of some space. There's still a lot of land in Dighton, no question. But unfortunately, there's been some people that have disregarded boundaries in people's land. So that's their land. If you want to go for a walk on it, get permission to do so. That's one thing that's always kind of bothered me.
Yeah, and of course, it's not like it used to be, because there weren't so many people. You knew where your land began and ended, and furthermore,
Yeah.
there wasn't the "this is my little piece, don't touch it" attitudes that we have now. And so the danger is there.
Sure.
Of, someone not being where they should be.
Yeah, mostly, it's not nefarious. They're going out for a walk, or they're
Sure they
going
are.
out for a good reason, but respect other people's property.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, no question. Well, I don't know how long we've been, but we've been a while, and I've enjoyed it.
Me too, thank you.
Have we missed anything? Is there anything you can think of, either of you, that
So-
we should have said something about?
I'll just reiterate the Suffolk Cruiser this Saturday, 9 to 1 at the police station. We also have the annual Santa ride on Sunday. The fire department brings Santa around on the fire engine. We usually kick off around 9 o'clock. I just ask that everybody be patient, listen for the sirens. Please do not inundate the dispatcher with phone calls.
Where is Santa? Do you know where Santa is?
Yeah, please, the dispatcher has more important calls to field than, where is Santa at this point in time. We tried it one year to kind of give updates, and it backfired, and we got all kinds of hate
sure.
emails because we weren't on target 100%. So just be patient, Santa will be by your house. If we don't throw lollipops because you're not outside or whatever it might be, please understand that the Santa up there is looking in multiple directions, trying to see people and doing his best job. So just be patient. And then just another reminder, the annual open-air burning season starts January 15th, runs to May 1st. Starting January 1st, you'll be able to get your permits online, as we've done in years past. If you are struggling with the internet, like we know some people in town do, please call Station 1. Again, that phone number is 508-669-6611, and the duty crew will be able to get you a burning permit and get you set up. So that's coming up, just to put that out there. The fee for the burning permit is $10, check payable to the Town of Dighton.
And we're amongst the holidays, festive times, so we know that there's gonna be some parties and people hanging out and imbibing of the grape, as they say, so please be careful. Have a designated driver, taxi. I know a lot of people don't use taxis anymore because of Uber and Lyft and whatever else is out there, but please don't get on the roads if you're drinking. Be safe. We want everybody to have a happy and healthy holiday season, and the first thing you can do is just make sure that you don't mess up your own or somebody else's.
Yeah, very, very, very good advice in all directions. I sincerely thank you both for doing this program. It's coming at a good time of the year. A lot of new information, a lot of new people, and I really do believe that our talk has probably helped some folks to better understand the work, the really good work that both departments do for us every single day. I think our police and fire departments are underappreciated, and if the man who is directing traffic at some kind of a construction site doesn't smile at you when you go by, don't be upset. He's got other things on his mind.
You could be on the 12th hour of a double shift. Could be anything.
Really and truly. They're out there working for us, and they're doing a really, really bang-up job. And I want to congratulate you both, gentlemen, on the departments that you're running, and the fine people who are your personnel and who work to protect us. That's very, very, very special, and Dighton has a wonderful record in that area.
Thank you.
We've already been reminded about Suffolk Cruiser, and so, Community Corner wishes everyone happy holidays, a very Merry Christmas, and a happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year of 2023. And we have this little closing note that I always use. Remember to smile. A smile can brighten any situation, and everyone smiles in the same language.